The equation of time was adopted to make the irregular movement of the sun regular. Hence, mean solar time was calculated and used. Heliocentrists will deny the acceleration and retardation of the sun and will claim that it is an elliptical orbit of Earth around the sun, along with an axial tilt of the Earth as it orbits around the sun that causes this apparent irregular velocity of the sun. However, it is not apparent, it is an actual acceleration and retardation of the sun. Even the Astronomer Royal of Britain, Neville Maskelyne, corrected his French counterpart on the issue of how equatorial orientation neither accelerates nor retards the observed motion of the sun, and it should stand to reason that this equally applies to, quote, axial tilt. Astronomers in Newton's era and later navigators who used clocks as rulers to determine coordinates and distances required only the instant when the subsolar point hit the Earth at their location, which would be at noon. By applying the equation of time, they corrected, or rather eliminated, the variation in natural noon, and thereby could transfer solar coordinates to, quote, actual coordinates. At no time was the equatorial orientation or axial tilt a factor in determining coordinates, and subsequently, neither is it a factor in determining the equation of time. Hence, the, quote, apparent velocity of the sun is a real effect. It actually slows down and speeds up. In understanding concave Earth, the back flat dark side of the sun is connected with the top of the celestial octahedron on the northern side via a hidden high arm of light. The electromagnetic connection encounters drag as it passes across the Milky Way band twice a year during the solstices.
Hi guys, Marco Pagano, a Cell Earth YouTuber, pointed out that in Stellarium you can actually change the mode to orthographic mode, and then what it does is it wraps the celestial sphere into a literal celestial sphere, the way it should be within the Cell Earth. And so what I did is I did the same, and I captured it frame by frame, and then I animated it, and this will give you a better understanding of how it's actually working function-wise within the Cell Earth. I drew this green vertical line to show the meridian. You can actually see the sun. It's making the analemma pattern, the figure 8 in the sky. Essentially, we're taking the same time every day for each day of the year. You can see the date over here. So it's starting from today all the way till April 14th of 2017. And so you can see how the sun forms the analemma, and then you can also see this red line. That's the ecliptic line, the path of the sun. And so because the Earth is not tilted, it is the ecliptic that is the tilt. That's what causes the sun to go from minus 23 degrees south to plus 23 degrees south, or 23.44 degrees. And with this, you can also see Venus and Mercury doing the retrograde, in which they actually do the retrograde. It's not a retrograde according to the heliocentric model, where it's just a matter of perspective because they think the Earth is spinning. On the contrary, the planets are being affected by the sun, either magnetically or by temperature or both. And because Venus and Mercury are going to be the planets that are closer to the sun, and because they actually go around in the front of and in back of the sun, as opposed to the other planets which simply go behind the sun, we can see them performing their loops. I'm going to zoom in on it sooner, so you can see a little bit later, so you can see it. But one thing is a little bit deceptive, though. When you see Mercury do the retrograde, it looks like when it gets darker, it looks like it goes behind the sun, but that is actually the opposite. When it gets darker, it's going in front of the sun. Obviously, if you hold an object in front of a light source, you're not going to see the front part of that object. And you see the Milky Way band. There's the dark rift. It's angled at 60 degrees. And you can see how it is steering the sun, like I talked about before in my Milky Way video. When the sun goes through the Milky Way band during the solstices, like right now it's going to the summer solstice in June, because of the current in each separate hemisphere of the celestial sphere, it will actually change the direction of the sun. So right now it tilts it on a bank and it brings it down. It actually draws the sun southward, and then in the winter solstice it's going to turn back up and go northward again. So this is a really good display. One thing to keep in mind is that the sun is not pasted onto the celestial sphere, how it appears right here. Neither are the planets. But it's still a good working visualization for you to see what's going on. In my model, I have the sun outside of the celestial sphere as well as the planets. And that is taken from first-hand eyewitness account during a hypnagogic vision that I had when I was up in the celestial sphere on a raft in the celestial ocean, looking at the backside of the sun and seeing that it was not in the celestial sphere, but actually outside of it. And that makes sense too if you understand how the planets operate. You watch my Orbit of the Planets videos. So this is really a good visualization if you understand what's going on. There's a celestial equator. It lines up with the equator of the Earth. I actually made the sphere a little bit transparent so you can actually see the octahedron behind it. And what I would have to show you is that the top of the octahedron is connected to the back of the sun. And so that's what's illuminating the sun, what's giving the sun its power. And so this is pretty cool. You see the constellations and you see the planets. So stay tuned and I'll show you a up-close version of this. So thanks to you, Marco, for showing this to me, that you can do this in Stellarium.